Hey, HTDA, and today we are going to take the fight into space. Last time around, as you can see, we set up this nice little farm. We are now actually mass producing the end game buildings, like for example the recomposing assembler, basically the Mark IV assembler. As you can see, we have quite a few of those now. I have a lot of those in my inventory as well. But yeah, we are now starting to produce that, and that should be going on as long as this never gets stuck. However, we still have these annoying hives in our systems, and I want to show you how you take care of those. Now, I just want to point out that I'm starting this episode with 43 Strange Annihilation fuel rods. These are the yellow fuel rods that we're making on our Dark Fog farm, and it'll be apparent by the end of this episode why I want to point this out. One thing, by the way, that you should also take into account once you have those is that warping around your universe becomes super easy. As you can see, my energy is not even draining, or at least you can see it draining, and I'm warping at full speed. So that is very efficient if you want to go from one side of your universe to the other one. Would you look at this quaint little red and blue science production that we've built in the first episode, still plugging along. And look at this awesome mall. We're here to pick up some materials. Specifically, we are here to pick up a lot of destroyers and corvettes, and honestly just pick up however many you have, including of course the ones that are in our interstellar mall over here, because you're going to need a lot of them. Okay, so let's take a look at our Dyson Sphere at the moment. Right now, the Dark Fog is actually taking 1.2 gigawatts of my energy that I'm producing, which is more than 1/3 of the entire energy I'm actually producing, so that's a lot, and that's not really what we want. So we're going to take out the hives. Now, I actually want to address a question that I got in the comments a couple of episodes ago. Someone was asking, does your sphere fill up faster if you have multiple nodes? And you can see the answer here. The answer is yes, by the way. As you can see, I have multiple places where the nodes can fill into or the cells can fill into the nodes, I should say. And it gets a little bit messy with all these cells flying around, but yes, they are filling up in all kinds of different places in my sphere at the moment, and my sphere is continuing to grow. So the first way to actually start clearing out the hive is just to fly close to it, and as soon as you see these things starting to move, like now, you turn around and you basically hoof it back to the closest planet in your system, and you have the Dark Fog chasing you. So as you can see, they're all turned red now. The ships are still trying to fight them off while we are flying back to the planet. Now, they might not necessarily chase you all the way back to the planet, but what it will do is actually generate a lot of threats on the hive. So as you can see, the threat is going up significantly now. We do actually have full waves of vessels coming in, and this will allow you to basically draw the vessels to your planets and get the vessels destroyed by your planetary defenses. Now, as you're doing that, what you're looking for to happen is to see these ships that are stationed around the hive slowly starting to be depleted. So you can see a full squadron right there, but you can see some of the other squadrons here on the sides are actually partially depleted. Now, don't underestimate how many ships there are actually in a hive. There can be like up to, I think, 1,500 ships or something like that in there. So a couple of waves of 100 ships is not going to make a huge dent in this. So you'll have to do several flybys in order to get all the ships from the hive completely away from that. And of course, as long as they still have resources, they will continue to start rebuilding these ships as well. But you can, if you do regular flybys, you can deplete them faster than they can restore them. Now, if you keep that up long enough, you will see that the hive is completely depleted from any enemies, or at least most of them. As you can see, there are still some ships in there, and then you can just start attacking the hive directly. Now, I recommend if you take on any hive, start out from the sides, because that will make your life a lot easier. At least it is a lot safer to do that, because as long as there's still energy in the hive, the turrets in the hive, because the hive does have turrets other than just the ships. It also have manual turrets. As you can see, I'm actually getting fired upon a little bit now as well. So just keep your distance a little bit, make your ships do the most work. And as you can see, I'm slowly taking down some buildings in the hive. And, well, just whittle at it and it will slowly go down. And the bonus is that while you're doing this, you're actually generating threat on the other hives as well. So any other hives that you're not currently attacking will get drained from ships while you're doing this. Now, what you're looking for, very similar to when you're clearing out the planetary bases, is the message core destroyed in one of your hives. So what you want to do is slowly go down the middle, from the side down to the middle of the actual hive, destroy the core, and then pretty much the hive is already dead. You just need to clear it out. It becomes a lot easier because as soon as the core is destroyed, as you can see right now, there's pretty much no energy anymore in this thing. If you hover over some of the buildings, you will get a pop-up showing you some details. It's a little hard sometimes to get that to show up, but the energy is slowly being depleted. Now, a different way to actually attack the hives is completely destroying them by yourself, so not using your planetary defense to do the job for you. In order to do that, you're actually going to have to move up pretty close to the hive. Now, I'm doing it from the front, but you probably want to do this from the side. And you're also going to want to be at a distance of about 0.2 AU. Now, hopefully, as you will see in a moment, once I press Z and I reach that distance, and I'm creeping in because I do not want to fly in here at full speed and then get myself killed. I should be able to start sending them to the hive and basically start them to attack. Hello, hello. Yep, there we go. So I'm stopping my movement completely. And as you can see, my ships have now engaged and are attacking the enemy, and I'm still out of range of the turret, so I shouldn't be taking any damage. Well, there could be some ships attacking me, so you do want to keep an eye on that, because as they start swarming around, they can actually attack your ship as well. And if there's a couple of thousand ships in here right now, as you can see, you can actually see it when you press Z. So you can see there's about 100 units here. Most of that is actually, not entirely sure if it counts the buildings, but it's probably just the ships. Maybe both, I don't know. But it's not that much, but there is a lot of different examples, because these are the hives that I was already taking out with my flybys. I'll show you an example of doing this with a fully strength hive in a moment. It's far from trivial. You are going to be losing quite a few ships, as you can see on the right hand side over here. My destroyers are getting, well, destroyed. My corvettes are taking out as well. However, as you can see, I am also already starting to take apart the hive. So once this starts up, it's a very easy way to clear out a hive, and it's by far the fastest way to do that. However, this is very fuel intensive. Now, you can't tell this because I'm using the yellow fuel that I showed you at the beginning of this episode, but if you're still on a lower tier type of fuel, you are going to be running out of, well, power, and as soon as you run out of power, your ships stop working, so take that into account. You should also take into account that this is going to burn through your ships, so make sure you bring plenty of them with you if you are going to do it like this. I also want to point out that clearing the hives is a lot easier with upgrades. That's kind of obvious, I guess, but take into consideration that I'm right now using a total of 6 space fleets, and I'm actually producing the other 2 space fleets in a moment. I'm also going to recommend to you that you use destroyers mostly. Destroyers seem to be a lot harder to destroy for the enemy. Kind of makes sense because they have a lot more hit points. But they seem to be far more efficient at taking out the enemy, because even though they get destroyed, you basically only use the firepower once they're entirely destroyed. Makes sense. While the corvettes are taking out at a pretty high rate, so you can replenish them easily, but they just get taken out really quickly again. So, long story short, I would recommend using the destroyers rather than the corvettes to clear out the hives. And of course, the more you have of those, the easier this is going to be. However, regardless of how you do it, if you keep it up, as you can see, you can easily clear out your, well, maybe not easily, but you can clear out your home system and take back full control of the power that you are generating with your sphere. As you can see, my sphere grew a little bit in the meanwhile, and as you can see, there's no more dark fog leeching off it. So our entire home system, including the space around it, is entirely safe now. Now, I promised to show you what this looks like when you're taking on a fully powered hive. And as you can see, there's a lot of ships flying around here. If I go back into the menu and actually show it to you, there is 900 ships flying around here, and there's even more over here in the hive. So, and actually I already took out about 600 of them, because this entire, I don't know, piranha swarm of fish or whatever you want to call this actually started out at, I think, like 1600 ships. So you can imagine it takes you a little while to whittle through this, and you're going to lose a lot of ships yourself in the process. As long as you don't get too close to this whirlwind of angry dark fog, you should be fine. You can just stay on the outside and you will take a few hits every now and then, but it's not more than just a couple of pot shots basically. Make sure you keep your distance from the hive itself while you're flying and drifting around. As long as you stay away from them, it's just a matter of sitting here or waiting. As you can see, while I've been talking, we're already down to about 500 ships. And as soon as the other 500 ships are down, we can get working on the hive. Now I'm in a different system, as you could see right now. There's only 2 hives over here, so I can completely clear this out in maybe like 20 to 30 minutes at the most. Maybe it's even faster than that, but it always feels like it's very long at least. Oh look! About 1600 ships to wipe out in another Dark Fog hive. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit tedious to clear out the hives in your systems, and honestly, you do not necessarily need to clear them out. As long as you keep your planets protected, the hives can't really do anything, so I would recommend just taking out the hives in the systems where you're actually going to be building a Dyson Sphere, because otherwise, well, unless you just like clearing out the Dark Fog, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's not really any bang for your buck in terms of the time investment that you do. That said, there is something that is a lot easier now. We have access to spaceships and we can easily defend our planets as well. So let's say you find yourself on a planet that has 20 plus bases on it, and as you can see, this planet actually has so many bases on it, I needed to find a moment to find a place to land, but I did. Normally you would plant a offensive platform over here, maybe a couple of them, and then start clearing out the bases one by one. Takes a little while, but it's fairly straightforward to do it. However, there is a way that is a lot faster. If you press Z and you go to the overview of your fleets and then you switch to the space version of that, you will find a button over here that says Attack Relay Station. Now what you can do is actually launch your fleets like this. It's a little bit finicky to where you want to click, but something like over here. And then you can tell your fleet to actually attack relay stations. I'm actually going to have to be fast in order to show it to you, because as you can, do you see them disappearing? It takes like 2 seconds for your fleet to completely clear out every single relay station on a planet. Still 0 threats, so they're not attacking you. So this is a easy way to clear them out. However, the hives don't like this. So the hives will immediately start to attack whatever planet you have in the system and to basically start sending their fleet after you. Now keep that in mind, but what you basically want to do is visit every single planet in your system while you have this option enabled. And honestly, at this point in the game, you can just leave this option on and just destroy any relay station that you come across, except for the one on your Dark Fog farming planet, so make sure you turn it off whenever you visit that. And then all you need to do is just mop up the Dark Fog bases that are left. Now remember that as soon as you take down the relay station, they will slowly start losing power. So this is why you first want to visit all the planets one by one, just take out the relay stations, then fly back to the first planet. By then it will probably has lost most of its power, or maybe all of its power. And then you can just walk in like this. Assuming you have all those bases, all those fleets that I've upgraded already, they will take care of all the remaining units that are left on the planet, and you can slowly start wiping out the planetary bases one by one. It will still take you a little while because of course you still have to actually destroy the planetary bases, but as you can see, it's definitely not hard. It's basically just a matter of walking around on your planet. Now unlike the space combat, you can actually see this is taking a pretty hefty drain on my power. So you do need to keep an eye on this, especially if you're on a larger planet with a lot of defenses like I'm on now. Make sure you don't run out of power basically while you're doing this, and if you are, just stand still for a moment. As long as you're not actively attacking a planetary base, you are not generating any threat. And honestly, if the entire planet is already depowered, there's only so many units that they can send after you, so at that point you should still be safe. Now, last but not least, if you want to speed things up, you should find the Fog Communicator. It will be somewhere on the outskirts of your home system. It's not going to show up on the map, but you can actually spot it from just flying around in outer space. It will show up like that. And if you fly close enough, like I've done over here, you can press E to interact, and you can either make the dog fog more impressive or actually weaken them. You can actually set a truce as well. Not entirely sure why you would want to do this, but you can spend some metadata in order to basically just have a truce and they will no longer attack you. But especially if you're playing on a lower difficulty level, if you're at this point in the game, you are probably going to be just fine by amping it up a little bit. You won't actually get any bonuses in terms of metadata from that, so take that into consideration. This is not a way you can kind of cheat yourself into more metadata, but you can make the dog fog more aggressive. Now, the reason you might want to do that is because once you start clearing out hives, you will actually make them more aggressive and they will start sending more swarms of vessels after you, and that basically just helps you clear them out faster than if they would just be sending waves every now and then. It's not a huge difference, honestly. It's completely up to you whether or not you want to use it, but it's kind of like this niche thing that maybe not everyone is aware of, so I figured I would want to include it in here anyway. Now, I hope you found this useful in order to kind of get a feel on how to clear out the hives. Now, I do want to mention that if you're going to do this, you might be seeing your FPS in your actual game rate starting to suffer. It's worth noting that you can switch these in two directions. Normally, I would recommend that you keep this blue bar as high as possible. Your FPS will suffer for it, as you can see happening right now. But this will mean your game keeps playing at the highest speed. If you turn this lower, your experience is going to be a lot better in terms of the FPS you're getting, but the actual time passing in the game is going to be slower than it is when you have this put up to the maximum setting. It's completely up to you whether or not you want to play it on one setting or the other, of course. I can imagine that playing with a low FPS is not very pleasant, but if you want to, for example, wait for your sphere to be completed and things like that, then putting this up to a higher setting, make sure that you're having a closer to 1-to-1 ratio between the actual time passing in real life and in the game. So be aware that is what this says. If you turn it down all the other way around, your FPS will be maximized, but time will be passing slower in the actual game. So if you feel like things are taking a long time, that's because they are. Okay, so remember at the start of this episode when I mentioned that I had 43 strange annihilation fuel rods on me? Well, as you can see, I'm still on 41. So clearing out a couple of systems from hives and actually a couple of planets along with it only took 2 of these fuel rods, and there's still one only almost completely full. So I just want to once again emphasize how much it's worth getting these up and running in your inventory, because basically at that point you will never want for fuel again. Let's see, there's 30 more already being produced in my Dark Fog farm, and on top of that, let's see, we have 1,000 assemblers waiting for us. We have a few hundred of these matrix labs as well. How are we doing on the actual smelters? Not that good. The reason for that is that actually my production was backed up here a little bit, but as you can see, it's now producing. I do have 500 planar smelters as well, and that's all from the materials in this farm, along with, of course, a little bit of help with quantum chips and frame materials from the support build that we built last time. It's working very much like intended, and in the next episode I want to have some fun with those endgame buildings. If you're still here, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.